Bezos started Amazon, and you've seen this interview, I'm sure, because most young entrepreneurs have, where he says regret minimization format.
That's one of the best.
One of the best ever. And a couple of things about Jeff that I find interesting, because I've had the privilege of getting to know the person. Number one, I think you should watch that again, because you have to weigh that. You have to look at that formula, and you have to decide for you, is it worth it, me giving up my 20s to have that freedom in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s? And by the way, I decided it was.
Yeah.
But then you're talking about a guy who also decided, okay, I need to do this because I'll regret not going this direction. And now he's also the guy who says entrepreneurs are incredibly misunderstood. Great entrepreneurs. And I think he's one of the most misunderstood people, because here's someone, Jeff Bezos created more jobs in COVID than any human being on the planet. Jeff Bezos, when corporate companies wouldn't raise their minimum wage, and it cost him a lot of money, raised minimum wage at Amazon to $15 when the US government was still at $7.25, I think. And other corporate companies, because he did that, were forced to do the same. So people talk about charity, they talk about giving. He just donated $10 billion to the environment. What they don't talk about, because it's easy for us to talk about nonprofit and foundations, but what we don't pay attention to is, are we giving back within our for-profit businesses that actually pay the bills for these people? And I don't think that man gets enough credit for being someone who not only creates jobs, but makes sure people make a living, that they can survive and prosper when the actual government isn't willing to do that. And he deserves more credit. And I just don't think we like to glorify those things enough, but we used to. We used to kind of glorify building a business to make it huge. And somewhere along the way, we got fine with small businesses, maybe some mid-sized businesses, but God forbid you become a behemoth.
And it's going to get worse.
And it will get worse. But at the end of the day, people should pay attention to the fact that Amazon didn't need to do that. And that man did it because he thought it was the right thing to do while he was creating jobs. And I just think that it deserves more credit, and we should be celebrating entrepreneurs who do things like that, because it makes a massive difference in the everyday man's life.
Before we move to venture, I do just have to ask, I have this problem, we mentioned kind of the regret minimization there. I have this problem with the work-life balance. I just think it's total bullshit. You speak to someone like Jeff in the early days of Amazon, most of the days of Amazon, I'm sure even now, you speak to your Elons, they absolutely kill themselves to make what they are building as big and as successful as they've become. I don't buy the, you can do it all, you can have the balance.
So I'm actually going to tell you, I asked the same question of Jeff. I actually asked him, how do you handle work-life balance? And he gave me the best answer I've ever heard.
If you were actually a true venture investor, by the way, you would caveat that and just say, this was my answer.
No, but it came from him, and he deserves the credit for it. I asked him, how do you handle work-life balance? And he said to me, I hate the word balance. He goes, why? And this is a man who has an amazing relationship with his children while building one of the biggest companies in the world. And he said to me, why should you have to balance two things that you love? You should harmonize them. And I said, really? And he goes, you should communicate to your friends and your children how much you love Amazon. If it's Amazon for him. He goes, my kids knew everything that was going on there, so they didn't feel left out. If my kid was going through something and I had to be there for my kid, everyone at work knew what was going on so that they understood that my kids come first. And you put them together. And I think that I, for so long, thought work-life balance was finding a way to balance them. So I didn't tell people on one side what was going on the other, because I thought I had to keep them separate. But I was passionate about both. And that's like being married to two different people. And that's not fair. That's not going to work. So I think that advice he gave me is something I now use in my life, that this next chapter for me, I want to make sure that I harmonize it. If I'm passionate about something, I want to make sure that everything in my life I'm passionate about is knowing about each other. The other thing is, the things I used to be passionate about, I'm not as passionate about anymore. So I have to also make sure that I don't stay in the same place and stay stagnant and become resentful of what I've created.